Okay. Well, in the last session we talked about introspection and the two aspects to it. The first one is to find the source of incorrect behavior, feelings, or thoughts, trace it back to its source, and then implant the autosuggestion. And that's just a vital part, to plant a corrective autosuggestion. And it's the knowledge contained in our teachings that we use as the standard of comparison, we said. And that's exactly what guides us to know what kind of autosuggestion we need to put in. But we must be ready, willing, and able to do this work. So, as I said, it helps with the upliftment of our awareness, which is the purpose of introspection. But what's that mean, uplift our awareness? It means to express more love, more wisdom, more strength. In other words, express more and more from the nature of life itself. At the highest level, life itself, its nature is love, wisdom, and strength. Or we could call it power or almightiness. So really, all the efforts in this regard of the researchers of truth fall under the category of introspection. See, our awareness acts like a filter, and it prevents the light of truth, the light and truth, from reaching us to some degree, as well as from the expression of it within ourselves. So we have to clean this filter. We all have cars, and we have air filters in the cars, and from time to time those have to be cleaned or replaced. And it's the same thing with our self-awareness. We have to keep it clean so it's translucent to the light, both the light coming in and the light going out. So that's the whole point of introspection, to express more and more truth and light, to become a better and better self, express a better self, which is the same as saying a higher level of self-awareness. This is why our intent must be pure. And purity of intent is definitely a core value of the researchers of truth. And we need a lot of courage to do introspection, because by doing it, we're entering in our subconsciousness, which really in most people is like a wild jungle with beasts. Negative beasts, angers, jealousies, fears in some people.
Shame.
What'd you say?
Shame.
Shame, yeah.
Shame's a big one.
Yeah. So we have to consciously put it in order. And it takes a lot of courage to see our own negative elementals. We can see them in general, but it's God's mercy we don't see their etheric form of them, because they would terrify us. Some of them would terrify you. But it doesn't matter. We've created them in the past, and we're going to disenergize them in the present. But it takes courage to do this. Courage or boldness to face the light of truth and undergo the purification of our personality. It takes courage to turn from the shadows of illusion and face the sun of truth. Facing the sun of truth, it's a good metaphor, because it's just like facing the material sun. When we have our back to the truth, it's like having our back to the sun. What happens when that? We see our shadow. But when we turn and face the sun, the shadow becomes behind us. It's such a clear metaphor. So what we find, if we're not turned and seeking the sun of truth, we end up following the shadow of our illusionary self. So it takes courage to look at your mistakes without feeling bad about yourself. You can feel bad about the mistakes, but not about yourself. We all have dark places in our subconsciousness, but with this light of reasonable thinking, we cast those shadows out and we clean it. We clean the subconsciousness, making it more and more beneficial to ourselves and others. And this is what really gives us spiritual development. It's not about reading books or going seeking gurus. It's about really applying it, starting to live it. And it's actually the wrong word to say spiritual development, actually. Because our spiritual nature, our inner self, is already developed. It's full and complete. So we're not developing it, we're unfolding it. Tolstoy used the word, I think he was the first one to use this word, unfoldment, spiritual unfoldment. And it's so right, because we're just coming to realize and expressing it in better and better ways, this inner nature. And sometimes people would approach Daskalos, and often he'd say, what do you want? And the common answer they gave was spiritual development or psychical development. And he'd say, what do you mean by psychical development? Daskalos had a real talent for, when he asked you a question, to leave you speechless. His questions were just so well timed and so well put that it just dissolved your glue that held your vague notions together. And it left you just standing there. And of course that was a tremendous, basically he's just reflecting back to you. And so, ooh, you see in the mirror that you really hadn't really defined what you're really looking for, what you really want. People are using these terms all the time, spiritual development, psychic development, thinking that they're asking for something really great, but without an idea of what it means. Shouldn't we know what we want when we ask for something? One time this guy came in, he said, what do you want? And he said, psychical development. He says, this time the guy had a definite answer of what it was. He said, what do you mean, practically? And he had this answer. He says, I want psychical powers to read the minds of others. Daskalos said, why? He says, I want to read the thoughts of my wife and children, because up to now I've been a victim in my own house. So the purity of the motive of intent was not there. So we use the power of autosuggestions to implant in our subconscious to strengthen the good and weaken the not so good. And this is because the subconscious mind just obeys. It doesn't reason, it just absorbs what a person sees, hears, and thinks. That's why positive autosuggestions produce such great results, and why negative autosuggestions, or negative self-talk, produces such disastrous outcomes. That's why Daskalos was always saying our subconsciousness is our best friend or worst enemy. It can cure the incurable, or it can actually kill you by what you're putting in it. And we've seen many cases where people have a negative internal dialogue, that's destructive self-talk, beating themselves up for what they perceive as their errors. And that ends up becoming such a powerful autosuggestion that it can manifest in accidents, illnesses, and in some cases death. I had this teacher in New York, and she had a student, and the sister, or the brother of the student, wanted to kill himself. And he just kept thinking about killing himself. So he's planting his thought about killing himself in his mind. And so the teacher, Hilda, said, bring him to me. So she brings him to him. She talks to him and works with him for a while, and he sees the light. He says, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. And so he stopped having those thoughts. And very shortly after, he went home, and he had this horrible accident in the shower because it was still there. He was planning for self-destruction. So now he didn't actually kill himself, but it was still enough there that it precipitated out an accident. So these positive affirmations expressed with faith can produce miracles. And one time, this guy in Cypriot guy, he comes in and he's all worried and stressed out. Oh, Daskalos, my wife, she's got breast cancer, she's going to die, we have 2 little children, what am I going to do? And he said, bring her to me. So she comes, and she comes with they'd gone to England and all these doctors, and they all said the same thing, she's got advanced stage, she's going to die. And so she comes with the x-rays and all the paperwork, and she talks and talks and talks and shows him all the paperwork, and he just sits there quietly and listens. And then at the end, she asks the question, do I have breast cancer?
Huh.
And you know what he said?
No.
Not if you tear those papers up. She really had it. If you tear those papers up, you won't have it. He planted that powerful suggestion in her mind. You know what she did?
Torn.
She tore the papers up.
She got well.
She continued to live. The husband died, but she continued and she ended up with grandkids on her lap, and she had a healthy life just by believing in that thing. That's such a powerful autosuggestion. She believed in it.
Yeah, she put her faith in what Daskalos told
Yeah, not
her.
in the all that stuff. Although she really did have it. That's why Daskalos is saying it can cure the incurable. what you believe.
Can I just say, it feels to me in that moment too that something in her, just when she asked, do I have it? With all those papers, there was something in her that was questioning.
That doubted that, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
and that she was
That's
able then
Yeah.
to say, to relate to her true I there. My I doesn't have it, my body might have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Daniel, in relation to this topic, and I think it was in Australia, there were these parents, they were vegan, good intentions and everything, but